Today, the two pharmaceutical companies, Takeda and Shire, is integrated into one company, making Takeda one of the leading biopharmaceutical companies in the world. With us to talk about this is Duarte Marchand. You are the CEO of Takeda Norway. Great to having you in studio, Duarte.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
We should talk about the rationale and the implication of this merger. So why did this merger happen?
Yes, so Takeda is one of the leading, is the number one pharmaceutical company in Japan. It has been, over the last 7 to 10 years, embarking into an expansion from Japan globally. And Shire has been kind of the last step in order to do this, making a global significant footprint. Becoming one of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies was a big ambition for Takeda, but also to diversify our portfolio into areas where actually patients really need to have solutions. And Shire and Takeda really became a fantastic fit together to bring on that diversification and focus on areas that are of high importance for patients.
Let's talk a little bit more about the synergies between the two companies. This is a tremendous, huge takeover. It was $62 billion or approximately 600 billion Norwegian kroner. That's one of the largest in the pharmaceutical history. So what are concrete the synergies between the two companies?
Yes, so I think that there's many reasons for this merger to actually make sense. One of the first ones I was already talking a little bit about. Takeda was very much having a small presence in the US market, for example, that represents roughly half of the pharmaceutical market in the world. After the merger, because Shire had such a big presence in the US market, Takeda will actually remain with the same presence around the world as the entire pharmaceutical market actually is, which makes it truly a global company. So that's one of the elements that we've seen that really makes sense to establish a global footprint. The second piece that we have synergies on is that at least in one or two areas there are, from a research and development, synergies that we're trying to build on. Neuroscience is an area that Takeda was already investing and investigating on, and also Shire. So the two together will be able to add a lot more value. And then obviously from a financial standpoint, the operation also made a lot of sense because the two companies were going to be creating a larger scale that from an economic point of view is also advantageous.
So after the acquisition of Shire, Takeda has also been in a process of, which you talked a little bit about, simplifying the portfolio into 5 key therapeutic areas, which I remember correctly.
Absolutely. So we want to be in the 5 areas where we are currently research and development on. We would like to make sure that we are focusing in these areas because that's where we're going to be in the future as well. Those are the areas of gastroenterology. It's really an important area for us for the future, where some of our largest products are. Also in the area of rare disease, as really an area that it's very special for us. We are the number one player in the world in the rare disease space, and we hope to continue to be bringing more and more innovative solutions for patients that really are very special diseases that almost no one else has. And then we also have a very large neuroscience portfolio. Neuroscience is going to be some of the diseases for the future. This is where we have Alzheimer's, but also other small areas that are really going to be key. Oncology, we have a footprint in oncology, particularly about hematology oncology, where we're really very strong. And those 4 key areas are going to be really important for the future. But we also have a big heritage, particularly in Norway, from the acquisition of Nycomed, where we still have OTC and a lot of primary care products that are really key for patients to sustain a good and healthy life, because they are sometimes the backbone of some of the regular diseases that we have, either if it's cough and cold or it is some antibiotics. But a lot of these products are, no longer really innovations. And we want to become an organization that is really focused on bringing innovation.
Yeah.
So the company has decided to try to simplify their portfolio by investing more in the areas where we're bringing innovation and actually divesting, selling out some of the areas that are no longer such innovation as the OTC and more established products that we have at the moment. And that's what we did recently with part of our portfolio.
So not Nycomed, as you said, it's household brands that are very familiar in Norway, and you are divesting now this business actually. So what's the value of this divestment?
Yes, so the value of this divestment is expected to be, upon closing, close to 500,000 euros. And it's obviously tremendously important for us because we wanted to make sure that we were finding a partner that could take care of some of these household brands and would bring it on. And luckily, we found a Danish company that is really interested in growing into this area. So Orifarm is going to be taking on some of these household brands. Takeda and Nycomed still are one because we are still having a significant presence with the factory that we are keeping here. And investing in making sure that we get employees and contribute to the society from an economic standpoint. The factory is remaining with Takeda, although some of the products that they produce are being divested. But the footprint that we have in Norway will continue to be very significant.
So what are the implications for the employees in Norway, which you started to say a little bit about? The factory will still remain in Takeda hands, but to be more concrete, what's the implications for people working with Takeda?
Well, whenever we make these type of deals, we're always making sure that we account for the employees that are affected. In the case of the deal that we've made, the employees are expected to transition to the new company as they are a key part of the reason why there is value in this portfolio. It's the people that actually work with it over and beyond the products that we have. So they are obviously an important asset that the buyer is also very much looking forward to.
Shire, the company, was focusing on rare diseases, and Takeda is increasingly focused on this therapeutic area and strengthening its focus here. Can you? And there is a tremendous unmet medical needs in these groups of patients. Can you tell a little bit about more about your strategies and way forward on focusing on these unmet needs?
Absolutely. If you think about the number of rare diseases that exist, which are roughly 7,000, only 5% of these have actually treatments. So there is a significant proportion of patients that have absolutely no response or very poor response to the available medication. Our strategy is to really focus and bring innovative products for these very small patient populations that really have no alternatives whatsoever. And we are present in many different types of rare diseases, from genetic diseases where you're really born with some of this genetic alteration that provokes these diseases, all the way through blood-specific diseases and immunodeficiency diseases. So the spectrum of rare disease that we cover is actually quite broad, and we're making a significant investment in R&D to expand this area, not only in the rare disease space as we call it, but also within the gastroenterology, the neuroscience, and the oncology area, to focus on very small patient populations that have nothing. And I can give you an example. We're bringing a product to market not far from now for a very specific type of lung cancer patients, where for that mutation there are roughly 2,000 people in the world that have that disease. So this is really a micro patient population. But the expectation of life for those patients is tremendously poor. Perhaps one of the poorest of all of the different types of lung cancer. So with our drug, we hope to expand very significantly the life expectancy of a patient with that type of mutation and really bring a lot of value for that very small patient population.
So how is it to research new drugs with these small diseases? We of course, obviously, for large diseases like heart diseases and also the big cancer diseases, it's easy to understand. But when you target a very minuscule target group or patient group, how do you really do that?
It's really hard, and there are several dimensions on why this is really hard. First one is the one that you're mentioning. There's so few patients that actually have this disease that in order to make a robust case to prove the efficacy and the safety of a drug there, you need to recruit several patients. But the population is so small that you need to rethink the way that you do R&D to actually use artificial intelligence, use a lot of different tools to be able to find those patients first and foremost, and then afterwards test within a small portion of those patients and yield results that are good enough for us to prove efficacy and safety. And obviously, we're collaborating a lot with regulatory agencies like the FDA and the European Medicine Agency and the Norwegian Medicine Agency to bring this to life. But we cannot compare, for example, a rare disease to a study being done, for example, for even a COVID vaccine right now.
Exactly.
So in just a few months, it was possible to recruit 60,000 patients for a COVID-19 vaccine that Johnson & Johnson just started now, for example, while there are no 60,000 patients on the type mutation that I was talking about.
No.
So it's completely different approach to this, and it would also create different hurdles into access into the system. If you think about the way that the access to reimbursement, to getting approval from regulatory agencies, it's based on large patient populations. It's not based on small patient populations. So we'll need to make sure that for the future we're adapting the way that we evaluate rare diseases in the way that enables that these products reach to the patients, rather than focusing only on one way to do things for large and small patient populations, because there is no one fits all solution here. It really needs to be adapted.
No, we are well known for our health registers, which are collecting data, for several patients groups with a high quality. Can they be of any use for Takeda when developing new medicines for rare diseases?
Absolutely. So I think that's a big part of the solution. If you think about when you're developing a drug, the wide public now knows that we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. The majority of the rare disease products, they never pass phase 2. And there's a reason for this. They never pass phase 2 because the results, if they are good, because there are no alternatives, it's not ethical to prevent patients from taking this drug and going to a phase 3 while you already know that these are some results.
Yeah, you can't have this placebo group. That will be unethical, giving them the standard medication.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then what happens is that how you're going into the market with what we call potentially immature data. Phase 3 is a maturity phase where you're really having a larger patient population that gives you the really maturity of the data. But if you're going with phase 2 data, the data is somehow immature. How can you then mature data afterwards? You typically do this with what we call phase 4 or real-world evidence studies. And these are studies that already integrating the drug into the wider market. We collect information from all of the patients that are taking the drug to verify already in the market the efficacy and the safety of the drug, and to make sure that the value that the drug is really bringing is that specific one. Now, in Norway, we have fantastic capabilities to be able to do this. We have a very good investigator base. The researchers that we have here, we're recording from the innovation park. In here, it's breeding innovation and investigators that are in Rikshospital, in Uleval, in Bergen, in many other places, really being able to add a lot of value with a tremendous education. The problem sometimes is that we don't have these quality registers integrated into the way that the products come to market. So there is no way for us to say that this is the data that we have so far. Let's introduce a product now into the market and continue to evaluate it. And if by any chance the product is not as good or is better than what we expected, also the way that the pharmaceutical companies are reimbursed or the way that the pharmaceutical companies should be paying back is not accounted for. So my one of the pledges that Takeda has is that we're going to be making health data an area that can be really important for the Norwegian market. And that can only be done by fully integrating from investigating all the way to getting new products into the market with authorities. We hope that with the goal that we have of quality registers here, the authorities will see that for the future, this can be a tremendous opportunity.
Do you have any concrete initiatives together with the Norwegian healthcare authorities in this respect?
Yes, we've tried many times to bring alternatives, ways to actually introduce medicines where the data was not mature. Unfortunately, we weren't able to reach to an agreement. I think that still some of the authorities believe that this can complicate things, although we try to simplify it as much as possible. But we have tremendous examples of actually partnering with physicians to actually improve the patients' lives by using some of these technologies. So not that long ago, we initiated a study that is looking into these registers to actually identify which type of patients with inflammatory bowel disease should actually be at a higher or a lower risk based on inputs that they bring in or measurements that they can themselves put into an app. So if you put every day or every week certain measures into an app, that with an AI algorithm behind identifies what's the level of risk that you have from really having a relapse or having a bad outcome or a need for an hospitalization. And then that actually triggers a signal to the nurse or to the physician. And you should only go to the hospital if you are at risk. You should not be going into the hospital if you don't need to, which at this time, when we are having a flood of people going into the hospitals because of COVID-19, becomes really relevant. We should be finding efficiencies also in the way that the healthcare system works, and we in Takeda want to be a partner to be able to do that.
Duarte, you are obviously very enthusiastic about the work you're doing. You come originally from Portugal.
Yes.
Like Norway, a country in the outskirts of Europe.
Yeah.
So how is it to come to Norway and manage a big international biopharmaceutical company?
Well, I think it's a cultural journey that has been tremendous in my personal life. So I've never cross-country ski before I came to Norway, and I think it was 1.5 months after I've joined, the team brought up some skis, and we were having an event somewhere in the mountains, and this is where I first started to actually fall a lot, which afterwards really became something that I absolutely love and enjoy doing, putting on some skis and going for a walk, adopting really the Norwegian lifestyle, going into hytta, enjoying the nature, and really loving what to do this. And my 2 children were born here. So regardless of how long I'll stay in Norway or not, Norway will always be in my heart because they were born here and raised here.
Yeah, that's great. So what can Norway learn from other healthcare systems that you have experienced during your career?
Yeah, so we work very close with the other Nordic countries, and I think that there's still a lot to learn with the other Nordic countries. In Sweden is a great example, you know. They have been really in the forefront, as they also have very high quality registers for patients. But they have really given a very significant step in the way that they use it. So now they use it to introduce new medicines and build that maturity on data. They use it to actually do a lot more preventive care, stopping patients that don't need to be into a given hospital, or raising flags when a patient can be at risk. They do a lot more home care solutions also with some of these areas. There is obviously other countries that are also doing some fantastic things in healthcare, and every country has their own specific elements. Norway also has outstanding areas of expertise and really high quality physicians global wise that can provide a lot of value. We feel that maybe going into a step where we're utilizing a lot more the resources that we have can take us even further. We're now building this analysis platform for e-health in Norway. It's a significant investment from the government. We hope that the pharmaceutical industry, with being experts in handling data for the past 50 to 100 years, and actually building a lot on this data, always safeguarding the patients, can be a true partner there and help bring solutions from other countries into Norway to improve the healthcare system.
Duarte, yesterday I had a podcast with Agnete Fredriksen, the CEO of Vaxibody. She told they have been through a lot of challenges during their the time the company has been. Now it's worth 10 billion Norwegian krona on the stock exchange. It's quite impressive.
Very
but
impressive.
She told me that when she got their first big investment, external investment on 80 million Norwegian krona, she was. At that day, she was spinning at I think it was at SATS, and then she heard this hit "Don't Stop Me Now" from Queen. so that is her power sound.
Yes.
So I have to ask you.
Yes.
What is your power sound? When you really feel in the mood, when you really feel that you have accomplished something, what kind of music do you listen to?
Oh, I absolutely love some of the 70s hits.
Yeah.
And if I need to be energized, there's nothing like Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas. So it's really something that pumps me up.
Yeah.
70s and the 80s music, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit old-fashioned, but there's nothing like those years to really pump someone up.
Well, they really could make music at that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Duarte Marchand, it was great having you in the studio. Good luck with the integration of two great companies. Looking forward to talk to you again when there are news coming up.
Thank you very much, Hans. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.